Discussed today is concerning an ongoing investigation, and so the details are somewhat limited, but we will do our best to get what you need. So today, please help me welcome and help me also thank the members of the Richmond City Council and the mayor of the city of Richmond, Mayor Stoney, and at this time would ask him to please come up.
Thank you, Tracy, and good afternoon, everyone. I want to begin by first thanking the Richmond Police Department and their partners as well. Today represents what working together should look like here in the city of Richmond. Working on a tip, our officers quietly investigated and collaborated with their law enforcement partners and the community to stop what could have been a terrible day for the city of Richmond. As we continue to live through an era, an age of mass shootings, and all around our country, no community is immune. And this reminds us that this does not have to be our narrative in Richmond or anywhere else throughout this country. We've seen the proliferations of weapons of war being used on our civilian population throughout this country. We've seen it in Uvalde, we saw it in Buffalo, and unfortunately we saw this past 4th of July in Highland Park, Illinois. And that's why it's very, very important that we remember the phrase, see something, say something. And that phrase came in handy this past weekend, and it shows us why it is important to remember it, but also to put it into action as well. It worked for us on July 4th, and it saved lives here in Richmond. Folks from all across the region came to Richmond to Dogwood Dell to celebrate the birth of our country. And fortunately, the Richmond Police Department and their partners, but also, most importantly, those in the community, came forward and pointed out an issue that Chief Gerald Smith will speak to here in a second. But I would be remiss if I did not thank our police department, our partners in law enforcement here, not just our state partners, but also our federal partners as well. But most importantly, let me thank those in our community who saw something suspicious and reported it as quickly as possible that allowed for our police department to do what they do best, good police work. And so I'm grateful for their help in this matter, and now I'll hand it over to our Chief of Police, Gerald Smith.
Thank you, Mayor Stoney, and thank you for your continued support of the Richmond Police Department and for your commitment to public safety. Also, thank you to President Newbill, President of our City Council, for coming today, as well as all City Council members who came today. For public safety is not a responsibility of the police department. It is a responsibility for us all. When we in this city start talking about gun violence and mass shootings, that is a concern that we all have, a concern that continues to go across this country. Many of us believe that, or there are some of us who believe that we can go about our day-to-day and that this doesn't affect us, that we can go about living, working, playing, shopping, and worshiping, and that these things do not affect us. Then there are those who actually make a choice, a cognizant choice to actually be part of the solution and actually do something as simple as pick up the phone and give us a call. This is what happened here in the city of Richmond, Virginia, where a subject who I am referring to as a hero citizen picked up the phone, overheard a conversation that there was a mass shooting being planned here in the Richmond of Virginia at our 4th of July celebration at the Dale. That citizen picked up the phone and called our brave men and women at the 2nd Precinct. Those men and women of the 2nd Precinct began an investigation, along with Homeland Security and our Special Investigations team, went over to the 1000 block of Columbia Avenue here in the city of Richmond to begin their investigation. Once inside that residence, they saw evidence in plain view that corroborated the hero witness's statement that there was a concern. The investigation continued. They seized 2 assault rifles, 1 handgun, and 223 rounds of ammunition. At that time, Julio Alvarado was taken into custody. He was charged with being a non-U.S. citizen in possession of a firearm. He is being held currently at the Richmond City Jail. The investigation continued. Officers continued to put surveillance on a second subject, and that second subject was watched throughout the holiday until afterwards, in which PC was actually obtained, and he was taken into custody as well and charged with the same thing. That hero citizen from one phone call, well, let me back up. After that phone call was made, our investigation also reached out to the FBI. The FBI was very important and very critical in this investigation because we had to be sure that the scope of the plan only included those who we were looking at and did not exceed that. In other words, we did not want to miss anything. And we are very grateful to the FBI for their help and their cooperation with helping us with this investigation. As it continued on, and the second subject was arrested, Mr. Bala Carcel, I hope I'm not pronouncing that correct, was also arrested and charged with the same thing of being a non-U.S. citizen in possession of a firearm. The success of this particular investigation can only be juxtaposed against the horrors in which the rest of the country has seen. There is no telling how many lives this hero citizen made. I mean, how many lives this hero citizen saved from one phone call. And that's why I'm so proud to have our elected officials standing behind us right now, because they know it's important that public safety is a responsibility of us all. One phone call saved numerous lives on the 4th of July. And moving forward, we employ that everyone, if you see something, say something. If you hear something, say something. It is a responsibility of law enforcement that if we hear something, that we do something. And that is the message I would like to get out today, that see something, say something works. So at this time, we'll take a few questions.
Can you tell us when the second guy, Chief, was arrested?
On the 5th. Yes. Well, once we made contact with him, we kept him under surveillance. We had to wait till we had enough PC to actually take him into custody.
Chief, can you tell us
One question at a time.
Chief, just in the time before and after the incident, did you alert any police officers about the potential threat? Because we didn't obviously hear of it from you all, so could you walk us through kind of what happened there?
Yes, we did know. Our officers knew, especially we were actually kept Mr. Barsakalala, we kept him under surveillance, okay? We kept our eye on him, but we had to make sure that we were looking at the right ones, that the investigation included those we were looking at. We didn't want to come up off it too soon and then someone else actually get away, okay? We also, I believe, Deputy Chief John Hayes on July 4th did a stand-up and actually repeated a lot of things that we were saying today, a lot of things that we continue to say. If you see something, say something, by all means. It is a responsibility of us all. The force multiplier for any law enforcement or public safety agency is the citizenry itself, because they see more and they hear more. 1 second, she was next. Yes.
Chief, can you tell us what the relationship between the two suspects is? Are they friends, relatives? And secondly, can you give us the broad outlines of what they were planning to do?
The broad outlines is they were planning to actually shoot up our 4th of July celebration, okay? We know what their intent is, but we don't have their motive. We do know that they lived at the same location, so we can say that for sure that they were roommates, okay? Hang 1 second, I saw to your hand.
Chief, I was just going to help explain here. Again, the second suspect wasn't arrested until after the date of the alleged offense. Can you help explain, was there
PC.
not believed to be a threat?
We didn't have the PC. We didn't have probable cause to arrest him at that time, so we kept him under surveillance.
I guess if he did attempt to make these actions, officers would have been prepared to move in? Or did you think he did not have the means after seizing the weapons on the 1st?
No, if he were to try any act of violence, our officers would have acted swiftly and beforehand. We were watching him very, very closely. Okay, so, yeah, I hope I'm answering your question. I'm not trying to sound evasive, but, yeah, if the officers saw him making any violence moves, they would have acted very swiftly. 1 second. He was next.
Chief, were these guys known to the Richmond Police Department? Were there any encounters of your officers with these guys before this tip came in?
No, sir. None. Then John.
Can you tell us any more about the plot itself? Did they have any particular grudge against a certain group of people? Was it a random attack? Did they back it?
Don't know. We know their intent. Their intent was to conduct a mass shooting at our 4th of July celebration. We do not know what their motive was as to why. John?
The history of these suspects, I've been told from sources that one of them at least has been deported several times. Can you comment on that and how frustrating it is for to have some guy come in time after time again, and this is the outcome?
It can be frustrating when things like that occur, that people who shouldn't actually be, who are criminals, actually continue to be able to do those type of things. It can be frustrating. But it is very, very encouraging to me when I know that our police officers, especially here at the Richmond Police Department, will continue to do their part. Okay? If they actually do something that actually violates the law, then they'll be held accountable from our perspective and not part of the law itself. Yes, sir.
Do you anticipate further charges? I mean, obviously you just got the non-citizen in possession of a firearm right now, and it's tough to charge something that didn't happen, but how do you anticipate bringing further charges?
If there are any other charges, we will make them. We'll go wherever the investigation continues to lead us. Yeah. No, yes, sir. Go ahead.
Could you elaborate a little bit more on the tip that came in? There was a conversation overheard. Could you talk about where it was? I mean, was it, any other details you could provide around that tip that came in?
It came from a hero. It came from someone who did the right thing. It came from a hero. And that person, we owe several lives to that one person. And that's what I can say right now. They're a hero. Yes, ma'am.
You said the hero overheard a conversation. Was he in a crowd somewhere where he overheard a conversation, or was it a friend of his who heard talking, or can you say anything about how he overheard this?
Nope. Don't know how he heard it, but he heard it, and he did the right thing with the information. He put it into the hands of law enforcement, and we are so thankful for him, and numerous families and friends and loved ones are as well.
Can you tell us what country these men are from?
I cannot right now because I don't remember, but I do think it is somewhere buried in this report that we can get that answer to you, ma'am.
Apologies if you always said this. The timeline of when the tip came in to when the arrest was made, what was the time lapse?
July 1st.
So, same day?
Same day it came in, the officers jumped right on it.
Did you say July 1st?
July 1st.
July 1st.
Yes. Any other questions?
Being held remain without bond at the moment, or do you know what that is?
I believe they don't have any bond at this time. No bond at this time. So they are in the Richmond City Jail at this time.
What do you know about how the firearms were acquired?
Okay. What do you
Do you know anything about how these people sort of acquired these firearms? It seems like it was done illegally.
We will be utilizing our ATF to help us do a trace of the weapons and the path that they've taken. Does that answer your question? Okay. Here, then here. And then you, sir.
Was the West Broad Street shooting connected to this plan in any way?
No, ma'am. Not at all. Here, then you.
Event organizers at Dogwood Dell ever notified about what you all were doing and what was happening?
We had a very robust plan, no. But we were keeping an eye on it. I won't give the details out of what we were doing, but I can tell you that the majority of our police department was working on the 4th. Okay, we knew and we can see what's happening around the country. It was just not only Dogwood Dell that we had a concern about, but we also had concerns about the diamond in the baseball game as well too. And let me be very blunt as I can be sometimes. This is where these cowards go. Wherever we gather, that's where they want to be. So we know what they will be looking at. So, yes, sir.
Kind of along the same lines, did this increase the security plan for July 4th, after July 1st, after this?
No, it did not. We were already pretty robust in what we were doing and utilizing a lot of special tactics and things that we were looking at already. This did not did not cause us to do anything extra. It's what's going on in the country that caused us to do what needed to be done. Okay? Yes, sir.
Chief, after hearing about Highland Park, what was your reaction? I mean, you had a situation in your own city.
I think I'm like any other citizen who's just outraged at this. This has got to stop. It's just got to stop. I may be the police chief, but I'm also a citizen, and it's ridiculous. At some point in time, this has got to stop. This is America, and we have a right to gather, and we should be able to gather peacefully to do whatever we want to do.
Were there any details on how they planned on carrying out this shooting? I mean, Dogwood Dell has that tower there, above there. What was your detail?
If you're asking if we thought they were going to use the high ground, we don't know. We don't have those type of details. Okay? We just know that that's where they were going. Okay? And that's where we were gathered as a people.
Will they be in court this afternoon, tomorrow, do you know?
I do not have their court schedule, ma'am. Yes, sir.
When this tip came in, obviously our department gets a lot of tips. So during your investigation, what kind of led you to believe that this was like a reliable source as far as that's concerned? Like what point in the investigation?
When they called. The officer could have blown it off. The officer could have said there's no way, no how, just made a note of it and moved on. The officer at the 2nd Precinct deserves so much credit. It's a phone call They took the time to take the notes, to take a look at it, make the phone calls, get Homeland Security, get our special investigation involved, and we did our due diligence.
Chief, when you made contact on July 1st with the first suspect, did they confess or say anything to you about the other gentleman that led you to believe, okay, this is legit, we got to go in and take what we can now and seize what we got?
I don't think it was the statements. I think it's what the officers saw when they walked in there. There was evidence in plain view that corroborated what our hero citizen had told us. So we knew we were on the right track there.
Did they let him in the apartment? Did he let the police in the apartment, or was there a warrant?
They were allowed into the apartment, yes. Yeah, no warrant. If that answers your question. There was no warrant. Yes.
Can you speak to, I know obviously the firearms there, but was there anything else that led you to believe that you were on the right path that you can share, that they were planning?
There was firearms-related material that was in plain view. Okay.
Nothing about indicating Dogwood Dell other than the tip?
No, other than the tip.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question about the retraction of tweets that happened late Friday. I know you weren't chief at the time when the police statue tear gassing took place, but I'm wondering, moving forward and learning from that situation, have communication protocols within the police department been reviewed so that, information that's being released to the public is accurate?
Given this situation and what we're dealing with now, I'm going to give it its all due respect and every attention that it deserves, and I'll answer your question at a later time. If you would, speak to the PIO about that, and we'll address that question at a later time.
Would the mayor take any questions?
Sure, I'll take a question.
Mayor, I've heard a lot from Facebook viewers today that are addressing just the violence we had over the weekend in the city. 13 people shot, 1 dead, 1 at a popular bar and grill on Main Street. You said that this is an epidemic here in the city. How can we plan to stop this stuff, man, when this is the second year in a row we've had record numbers for violence?
Well, John, I did say it's an epidemic here in Richmond. It's been an epidemic for generations here in the city. But it's obvious now this is an epidemic all across this country at the moment. Unfortunately, because of the proliferation of these weapons of war and who can get their hands on them, whether you're at home in your cul-de-sac or in your neighborhood or in a park or at a parade, out dining, you have to keep your head on a swivel. And that's not the country that I know I desire to live in. That's not a country that anyone here on stage desires to live in. But those are the facts of the matter at this moment. And there's mayor after mayor across this country who are frustrated by the current state. And a lot of times, us here at the local level, we're grateful for our police departments, but we don't have the tools necessary to stop the flow of weapons into the hands of those who want to harm people. The bottom line. And so I appreciate what the federal government has done, Congress, and passing the recent bill on firearms, but I'm telling you right now, we need more. And so if members of Congress, both Democrats and Republicans, want to pat themselves on the back and think they've done something, come to urban areas like Richmond on a day-to-day basis, week in and weekend, and we're going to tell you, and you're going to see for yourself, that we need more policies to keep people safe. So these wars of these firearms, these weapons of war don't get in the hands of the wrong people.
This hero, Mayor, saved what could have been a mass shooting, but we did have a mass shooting over the weekend with the Cyber Cafe. What do you say to those victims and those families?
Well, first, I don't want to take away from the fact that this police department did something I think should be lauded by stopping a mass shooting that could have occurred in our city. Our department here they're first responders. They're here to respond to criminal incidents that occur in our city. And there is a coward out there somewhere who picked up a firearm and decided to harm people right here in downtown Richmond. And so my heart goes out to the families. I'm glad there hasn't been any deaths because of that one incident right there. But I know without a doubt that this department will do its due diligence in seeking out who did this crime and bring that individual to justice. Because obviously, if you're willing to shoot at 6 people and harm 6 people, you're likely to do it again. And we want to get that type of person off the streets here in this city. And so for the families out there, this department will do everything they can, the city will do everything they can to bring that individual or individuals to justice.
Have you had conversations with Colette McKeeshan, the Commonwealth Attorney, about, hey, we got to get some teeth into this stuff and get them behind bars and make them stay there?
You know, I've had conversations with the Commonwealth's Attorney, but I also want you to know that the Commonwealth's Attorney is just one piece of the justice system in local government. We need judges to do their part and put people, make sure they stay behind bars. If you are a criminal who's willing to take someone's life or willing to harm and maim anyone, you should be behind bars a little bit longer, I think. But also we need state and federal government to step up as well. All right, unfortunately, we are the ones who, when things don't happen at the top level, at the federal government, state level, we are the front lines. We are on the front lines. Our communities are on the front lines. And so we lock them up. Then the Commonwealth Attorney does their part to put them away. But then when they're getting light sentences and they're back out on the street, that puts more into the activity log for our officers. And so we can do all the investing. We can change policies in our power that we have here locally, but we don't get any help from the judicial branch or from the state government or federal government. This is going to be a continual cycle. And unfortunately, that's been the case for generations in urban locales like Richmond. I'll take one more and then.
Do you feel like the police department has enough resources to continue to prevent tragedies like this?
Well, I put $11 million more, not me, the members of city council and I worked together to put $11 million more into the Richmond Police Department, right? So we can be competitive here in the region. And that's a positive, obviously. But what I hear from officers all the time is it's more than just about pay. It's about, you have a quality of life in your neighborhood and at home. You also have to up the quality of life in your workplace as well. We're going to continue to focus on that. Also, we can't continue to put this all on the shoulders of police officers as well. This is about community safety. And that's why we put a lot of dollars into gun violence prevention and intervention. We got folks here with our Parks and Recreation Department who are with us today because they play a central role in preventing young people to choose a life of crime. That's why we invest major dollars, a 33% increase in public education in the city over the course of the last 5 years. They did that. Why? They know because our children, just like any children, the children living in Henrico, Chesterfield, you name it, deserve a better path than a path centered in crime, centered in wrong decisions. And so we can continue to invest into the police department, but we can't just be tough on crime and say investing in law enforcement is the only answer. We also got to be tough on the root causes of crime. I've said that daily, weekly, until I'm blue in the face. And you're getting the side from me today is that I'm frustrated because we were here to talk about what could have happened on July 4th, and yet we're talking about other things today. So I want to end by saying, let's thank our police department for the great job they did to prevent a tragedy in this city. And also take the time to thank them for the tragedies that they're preventing each and every day. That may not involve a mass shooting. It may just involve a kid getting his hand on a gun and someone calling it in. That's our community that's doing that. That's this police department that's doing that. Okay? So take the time to do that. And remember, if you see something, say something. Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you for coming today. We'll be sending a press release to you. If you did sign in and get us your email, we'll also be sending the booking photos. Thank you.